You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Back here, Ben Pfeiffer, Park Rangers, Locked On Cougs. Thanks for joining me again. And the name is Olajuwon. It's hanging in the rafters. He's got he in his faith, he actually doesn't want a statue of himself, so they put a statue of his jersey downtown. But Olajuwon's name is all over that city. And Aziz, his son, is a senior this year. And Aziz had a really good summer with JL3 Elite on the Nike Eybl circuit. Aziz went from kind of a lower end prospect, 6'6" kind of wing guy, to suddenly had a bunch of Power 4 offers, and very quickly Houston was one of those offers. And after initially scheduling 3 visits, he had a couple more and added Houston to his list. I think people feel comfortable with him on campus, obviously for a lot of reasons, but he's not his dad, like not even the same position. And I mean, that to say, like, obviously there's only one Hakeem Olajuwon, but what can you tell us about Aziz Olajuwon? And then I want to get into, like, how unfair would it be to have, is there some level of being unfair?
I'd love to just separate Aziz from this whole Hakeem thing, because I think he's a really sick player who I actually really like. Who, like you said, broke out this summer on the EYEING circuit. He was great, like top 100 camps, really impactful, two-way wing, like isn't crazy skilled or anything, but has the kind of athletic profile. And there are some flashes of like ball skills. He can put the ball on the floor a little bit, run some like basic drives, and with his athleticism, that's definitely going to be something that teams look at. I'm pretty sure I don't have the stats in front of me, but I believe he shot the ball pretty well in EYEING this summer from 3 as well. So very much like, I think this is a college player only, probably, but certainly a promising one. I might like Olajuwon better than the player we just talked about.
Well, and frankly, Aziz is interesting because he's 6'6", kind of a small forward, kind of a small power forward. And that in of itself might limit him to a college, and it might limit his options afterwards. That doesn't mean he can't be a very good college player, but I do think it'll be interesting. Like, he walks on campus, people will be like, okay, like, when's he going to lead the league in blocks? And like, that's not really who he is at all. It's not fair. He's very much got his own game, and it's a very cool game, very unique game, because he is the 6'6" kind of athletic wing. I want to make sure if he ended up coming to Houston, that's not too unfair.
Yeah, he's a good player. I kind of think of him somewhat similarly in terms of like quality to maybe not as good, like similar bucket, like how I felt about Terrance Arceneaux coming out of high school, who is a player who I love and loved, and just that, just could never stay the health with him was just whatever.
That's interesting too, though, because they're frankly similar.
At least a small step.
Aziz might be heavier. They're probably similar measurables, though, right? Long arms.
Probably, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Arceneaux is obviously always so skinny, but I think Aziz is, at least just like my eye test in my head, I think they would probably measure somewhat similar. Your lanky movement skill wings with some burgeoning offensive skill sets, like.
And it would be an interesting spot, obviously, for a lot of reasons. Fun fact, I didn't know that until doing research on him earlier this summer. He plays for Team Canada in U19 stuff. I guess he was born while Hakeem was up with the Raptors. I didn't really put the 2 and 2 together there, but
that is cool.
there's a fun bit of trivia for the folks home. Other Texans, a couple of DFW kids, Cameron Lomax and Davion Adkins. They're frankly opposite ends of the spectrum to me. Lomax is a 6'1", very traditional Houston Cougar guard, and Davion Atkins is kind of a 6'8" athletic college forward for sure. Do you have preferences on which one you like to talk about more?
Either one.
I want to start with Lomax because he strikes me as a Cougar in a lot of ways. He's been recruited by Houston for a minute now. I think he paces games really well. I like his offensive skill set in that regard. But if we're going to talk about these smaller guards, he is a guy that, as far as you're concerned, his pro potential probably is limited, right?
He's not someone who I'm particularly considering as a pro prospect, but Lomax is really good and is probably underrated. I think the 247 composite has him outside of the top 150. I think it's
Wild.
like when you have a guy who's ranked like that, but then you see the offers and it's like, oh, Houston and LSU and Xavier, other power teams. Like he's probably he's got A&M, Texas Tech. It's like, oh, he's probably better than he's just like the in-state schools no suitor. Lomax is, I think, a plug and play as plug and play as you can be. Complementary guard. Like he's not necessarily like a point guard, which obviously is tough for the size, but like at the college level, that's fine. Like LJ Crier wasn't ever a point guard, and Cam Lomax is bigger than LJ Crier. That's a low bar, but he's a similarly talented shooter. Like not, I don't think anyone's like Crier's level. I mean, he was absolutely nuts, but he's a very talented shooter. He shot 37% from three on pretty solid volume, good mid-range pull-up shooter as well. But I think he's got some like wonky kind of handling creation. And he drew a bunch of fouls in EYEING, which is encouraging for his athleticism and driving translation, but like doesn't get to the rim very much. Took like 20% of his half-court shots there, relies on a lot of like pull-ups and floaters. But I think he's a very sound decision maker. I don't see him make a lot of like really dumb, questionable reads that you see a lot of young point guards make just because of like inexperience. And I think defensively, like all right from what I've seen, where obviously the size is going to be an issue, but he's got quick. I mean, I feel like all of these, you can see just the kind of players they like. Quick feet, can change directions, active defenders. But yeah, I like Lomax. I think he's a perfectly good college guard prospect who, if he landed at Houston, would just be one of those like, hey, yeah.
Well, and I think it'd be a 4-year player for Sampson that's like in the rotation in the first couple and a starter by the last couple. And I think we've seen, frankly, crazier development projects happen at Houston before. You can go back and look at what Marcus Sasser looked like in high school. You can go back and look at what Jamal Shedd looked like in high school. Those guys both getting paid a lot of money right now to play basketball I was about to say in this country, but I guess Shedd's a Raptor. So in the NBA.
Yeah, and Lomax was good for like an EYBL team.
Like it would not be a crazy for anyone, frankly, under 6'3" for Houston to turn them into something like that. Davion Atkins is not under 6'3", but I do think it's interesting because I think he's the size that could be a dominant college player and then have trouble finding a home after that, unless something changes in his game, or maybe you see something that I don't. But Houston just had one of those in Juwan Roberts, and I don't mean to say that Davion Atkins is Juwan Roberts, but I do think they're similarly as far as projection of how they could, like Adkins could be a long-time college player that has a long, good career to me.
Talk about small, shorter, springy bigs like JoJo Tugler, the Davion Adkins. He blocked, and I'm looking right now, he blocked an excellent 2.3 shots per game. Really impressive. He fouled 2.6 times per game, so there's a similarity there. But like you said, I think what is Atkins, like 6'8"-ish?
He's listed at 6'8", so he might be 6'7".
Definitely a long wingspan. Yeah. Crazy athlete. I agree with you that I think your evaluation is one that I would agree with. It's just like this. Probably, again, from an NBA perspective, it's always harder to project, but especially on the Adidas circuit, there aren't as many great bigs. Like he is really able to dominate, and his team wasn't very good. Like Southern Assault didn't have a ton of great guards that like got the ball to him very often. So I don't think it was like a perfect situation for him or anything. He just like ate on tips and putbacks, and he's probably not going to add much value as a shooter or like a playmaker, really. I don't think his touch is anything special, but that's fine. I mean, he can just be like a athletic, rim-running big who is dunking absolutely everything. He is an absolutely unbelievable athlete. He logged 44 dunks in 16 AAU games this summer. That is hilarious. And I think that's and to be very clear, I think that's a positive thing. I clearly, I think some people might be like, "Oh, you think he just dunks the ball?" It's like, yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's 2 points. Really good. I'll take all those.
But yeah, I think he's like he's another one who I think would just, you're probably putting him on ice for a year or two, and at some point he's probably going to turn into a solid rotation player, given how much I generally trust Houston with this stuff.
Ben, you do a lot of coverage across a lot of different sites. Throw out the Twitter handle for the audio folks and tell people what you're working on lately.
For sure. Thanks for having me. Just my YouTube channel is my name, Ben Pfeiffer, my Twitter at BJPF_. Mostly these days for sportscasting, Basketball Insiders, to be, especially I cover all levels of basketball, but definitely right now, a lot of high school, a lot of recruiting, a lot of preparing for next draft, just because we have, that's the thing going on. We have a whole summer of AAU and FIBA and all that good stuff to comb through. So yeah, I'm just following on Twitter. Everything I do will be there. But
thank you for joining us and talking Houston recruiting. Before we get out of here, the answer to the trivia question from last time was about the scrimmage yards in 2000. That was Brian Robinson with 888. Trivia question for next time for folks at home: who is the highest ranked recruit to ever sign with Houston per 24/7 on consensus since they started ranking recruits? Don't look it up. Answer in the comments down below. Thank you all for tuning in today. Locked On Cougs, part of the Locked On podcast. I'm your team every day. Go Cougs.
It's a good question. It's not is it just Jarris?